Hi, good morning, students. So, in our previous session, we have completed all the malas, which is again the symmetrical part of the subject. So, all the malas are completed. In the homework, I have told you to, in the demo, I've shown you this particular section, and in the homework, I have given you the rest of the sections, right? It's basically a semicircular shapes which you're supposed to add. It's totally fine if you wish to make some changes in these curves, it's totally up to you. Now, as a homework, I'm preparing this session for your homework in which we are going to learn how to complete the crown. We're going to add details inside the crown, and I'm going to teach you how to add the borders. And there are three varieties of borders which we are going to learn, right? So we will draw a basic outline for the border, and I will show you how to add the border. So this much you can complete by the next Saturday. Yeah, so that is going to be your additional homework which you must complete by the next Saturday, right? So let's start. Let me go a little close to the ground. Yeah. So for adding the details inside the crown, there are basic shapes which we will be following. Okay, and I'm going to tell you the measurements. First of all, we will draw a basic structure which will support these spiral shapes, right? Inside this particular area, there are some spiral shapes, and here we are going to add the peacock feathers. Okay, so follow my lead. You need to place your scale at this point, which is the extreme point of the turban, which is 5.5 centimeter away from this particular point on a vertical line. So from this point, we are going to measure and mark on the slant line, which is the line of symmetry for the crown. So please follow this. You need to place your scale in a manner that your zero is exactly lying at this point. Okay, this is your zero. You need to place your scale here at 0 and mark upwards 1 centimeter. The first point is at 1 centimeter upwards. The second point is at 3 centimeter, which is again the center of these two arcs which you have drawn for the crown. That is the center of your these circles, right? So that point is already there. So the first point is at 1 centimeter, second is at 3 centimeter, third point is at 5 centimeters upwards, 5 centimeters upwards. So we are not shifting the scale remains the same. It's at the same point. 0 is here. You need to mark at 5 centimeter. The next point is at 6 centimeter from here. 6 centimeter from here. I'm going to repeat my measurements again. Just cross check. You need to place your scale here at 0. Your 0 will lie here. Okay. Measure 1 centimeters upwards, then 3 centimeters upwards, 5 centimeters, and 6 centimeters. Okay, all the markings are going to be taken from this point. Now we're going to rotate our scale and place it in a perpendicular fashion, perpendicular to this particular line. Okay, perpendicular to this particular line. So how do we do that? If you observe your scale, there are multiple perpendicular lines. Okay, for the markings, there are multiple perpendicular lines. So in all the scales, you will get these kind of lines. Okay, there is a perpendicular line, right? So when you place your scale, you need to place it in a manner that this particular line is falling exactly on your line of symmetry. Place it in that manner, okay, and draw a perpendicular line. So I'm placing this particular line exactly at 1 centimeter dot that I have marked. Try to keep it perpendicular. Now what is perpendicular? It will form a 90-degree over here. It's forming 90-degree. Okay, so place your scale there and draw a very light perpendicular line, which is nothing but your guiding line. Shift to another point, which is your center at 3 centimeter. Place your scale and draw another very light perpendicular line. Shift your scale to the next point. Again, place your scale there and draw a perpendicular line. If you're getting confused with the perpendicular lines, you may go for the first line and then go for parallel lines, right? So one line should be parallel to the another line. Okay, that way. So now the last is at 6 centimeter dot. I'm going to draw a parallel line. Again, very light. This is just a basic structure that we are drawing. And this is just for guiding you. We are going to erase these lines later. Now, once these horizontal lines are done, we are going to draw some perpendicular lines. So for that, you need to place your scale at the center line, maybe which is taken at the 3 centimeter dot now. There you can place your scale, okay, and mark at 1.5 centimeter, mark at 1.5, and mark at 3 centimeters. Okay, mark at 1.5 and mark at 3 centimeters. Do the same thing on the other side as well. Mark 1.5 towards the left and mark 1 centimeter, 3 centimeter towards the left. I'm repeating myself again. We have placed our scale on the center line and we have marked 1.5 towards the right and 3 centimeters towards the right. 3 centimeter from the center. Okay, total is 3 centimeter. This is 1.5. In the same manner, 1.5 from the center and 3 centimeters from the center, we have marked the 2 points. Now place your scale vertically in a way that it is forming a straight parallel line along with the symmetrical line, okay, and draw some vertical lines which are again going to guide you, help you placing the spiral shapes like this. You will get a very simple, some boxes will be there, and by utilizing these boxes we're going to place the spirals. Yeah, so now let's move ahead. This, observe this carefully, how you're supposed to place the spirals. We will start from this point. Let me go a little more close. Yeah. So we will start from this particular point. We will draw a curve in a way that it touches the uppermost line like this, curve it down and touches the vertical line like this. Again, curve it down and touch the bottom line and then curve it down like this. Okay, so this is how you're supposed to place your spiral. The uppermost line will help you, the vertical line will help you, and again the bottom vertical line, horizontal line will help you. So these lines will guide you and it will help you placing the symmetrical shape on the other side. Okay, so I know that my spiral is touching here, so even on the left side it should touch this particular vertical line, and in the same manner this particular bottom horizontal line, then like this. So these guiding lines will help you creating the symmetrical shape. Okay, symmetrical shape you will form by utilizing these lines. So once the first two spirals are done, I would suggest to complete one spiral on one side and then repeat the same thing on the other side so that there is no confusion. So once the first spiral is done, the second spiral will come somewhere in between this box. So you will start from this point, again touch the vertical side, horizontal side, and curve it down like this. Please remember that we are going to add dots inside these spaces, right? So it will look somewhat like this once it is completed. You will have dots like this in between. So if you do not have a lot of space, you won't be able to fit in the dots there. So please remember that there must be space between the outermost curve of the crown and the spiral. In the same manner, there should be distance between two spirals, right? So remember that and place the spirals accordingly. You may make changes, I don't mind. If you wish to go for another motif, another design, that's totally fine. But remember that we must leave some space so that we can fit in some dots there like this. So once this spiral is done, you have to repeat the same thing on the other side. This time you can utilize this vertical line and draw the curve like this, touching the horizontal upper line, and then curve it down like this. A little change is fine in the size and maybe in the shape. A little change is fine. So you can see that there is a space between the outermost curve of the crown and the spiral. Even there is space between two spirals. Even these two curves, there is a space. So I will be able to add the dots there. Correct. Now for the next two spirals, you do not have to utilize these horizontal and vertical lines. It will come somewhere in between over here. Again, you have to keep that in mind that there should be space between these two spirals. Try to draw the same size curve on the other side like this. Now the last one is going to go till this horizontal line. So observe this carefully. You may start from the center. You may go till here, curve it down. If you wish to touch this one, that is also fine because there's a lot of space in between. So you may touch this vertical line and then curve it down. That is also possible. But whatever you're doing on one side, just try to repeat it on the other side like this. So once you start adding the dots, you will have enough space. Okay, mostly 2 to 3 mm dots will be added. 2 to 3 mm dots will be added. So you will have a lot of space so that you can connect them and fit in multiple dots. Students make usually this mistake that they go very close to the extreme line of the crown, like they draw the curve like this way. Okay, and then it gets very difficult to add the dots in between. So please remember that you have to stick to this measurement which I'm giving you and go for these particular shapes. If you wish to add on or eliminate some of the spirals, that's totally fine. Instead of maybe these many spirals, if you wish to add one big spiral, that is also your choice. Now once these spirals are added, you may erase the vertical and horizontal lines if you want. Otherwise that can be done once the tracing is completed. Now the next portion is to add the shapes for the peacock feathers, and ideally we can set one shape in the middle here and five shapes on both the sides, five shapes on both the sides, right, to maintain the symmetry. Now, according to 5 shapes, I would suggest to go for 1.8 centimeter as the distance of one shape. So 1.8 to 2 centimeters you can take. I tried 2 centimeter, but it is going away from out from this line, right? If we try to fit in 5, and if we take 2 centimeters, then it will go and overlap this line. So we can take 1.8 as the width of one peacock feather. So observe this. We will start from the center. You can place your scale exactly at the center and mark 2 centimeters in total, 1 both the sides. 2 centimeters in total and 1 both the sides. Okay. Once you mark those points, you may place the shape for this for the peacock feather. Let me just modify this. Now, what is the shape of the peacock feather? It's mostly like a droplet shape, but this is overlapping over here, right? So you may start like this and connect it like this. Okay, so this is the basic shape. If you consider a full leaf, it is very similar to that kind of a shape, like this, but cutting over here. So this is the shape we're looking for. Once that is done, you can take your scale, or maybe you can measure it with the rounder. Take 1.8 and measure it with the rounder. This is 1.8 centimeters. Okay, I have measured it with the rounder. Now I'm going to place my rounder at the extreme point here of the first peacock feather, and I will mark an arc there like this. I will place my rounder again and I will mark an arc again. I'll place my rounder there and I will mark an arc again. You can place your rounder and mark an arc again. Or if you are not really comfortable with the rounder, you may place your scale at the extreme line of the first peacock feather and mark 1.8 centimeters and draw a line like this, a very light line. Again, place your scale at this point and mark 1.8 and draw a line. Again, you can shift to another dot, mark 1.8 and draw a line. Remember that this line can be concentric, not concentric, but coming from the center, and it's going like this. Okay, so that kind of a line can be drawn. Again, measure 1.8 and mark a line. This is just a guiding line. It's totally fine if you go here and there, but the direction can be changed. That's fine, but the measurement should be 1.8 around. So I'm doing it on the other side also, 1.8. I'm marking a dot. So nearly 5 Peacock feathers will be set on one side. Hmm. This seems good, so I'm going to draw the lines from these marked points. All of them are 1.8 centimeters away from each other. Okay. Once the markings are done, you may mark in the center and the upper portion of the curve. Initially, it was on the lower portion of the curve. Now, this is the upper curve. Okay. So you can take the center so that it will be easy for you to place the shape. So just take the center, randomly take the center, no need to use the scale, and mark somewhere in the middle of these lines. Okay. So now I'll tell you how these points are going to help you. This is the extreme point where you should touch your shape. So it will be more like this. Then it's more like this. You may practice the shape on a rough piece of paper. Please remember that we are not overlapping the extreme curve. We are going to place the shape somewhere inside that curve. Okay, so remember that. So I'm going to place my shape somewhere inside like this. Repeat the same thing for the other peacock feather, like this. Do not make it too sharp, or I would say mechanical, like a V shape. It should be more like a curve. Both the curves will be connected to form the shape. Sometimes, students go for very simple shape like this. This will not look good. The shape is quite curvy like this, and then like this. So avoid this, go for this. Okay. When you are connecting the feathers, there shouldn't be the gap in between. So when you are connecting, no, so keep it like this. Over here, you may go for a connecting line like this. There shouldn't be any gap. Okay. So over here, now I will connect it with this point. Like this. According to the curves, you may make some changes. If you feel that the last peacock feather is going too close to the line, maybe you can shift the second last. You can shift this one a little in. थोड़ा सा आप उसको अंदर shift कर लीजिए. You can also shift the center of this one. So this is the modification that is required at every stage. You need to take a call and modify your shapes. Take an overall view of your work. If you feel that here I need to make some changes, do not hesitate to make improvisations like this. So this is how you're supposed to complete the peacock feathers. I'll just quickly do it on the other side also. So these are the major lines. I will just divide it into half. Now I will quickly start placing. So from the center, I usually start. Later, while tracing, we can still modify it. While using the permanent marker, we'll try to modify these shapes. Take an overall look, observe, and if you feel that few shapes are looking very different than others, then try to make them uniform. Okay, so this is how your crown is completed. Later we will start tracing and we will add the colors and then the dots, but as of now this much is required. Okay, so once the crown is ready, we are supposed to add the borders. That is again your homework. Yeah, so overall it will look somewhat like this. Let me show you the final look of the crown. It will look somewhat like this once it is fully completed with the dots and all. So observe this carefully. Why I was suggesting you to leave some gaps between the spiral, because we are supposed to add the dots in between. So if the space is very less, we won't be able to fit in the dot there, right? At the same time, the shape of the peacock feather you can observe. Right. Now the next portion is to complete the borders. What are we supposed to do for the borders? First of all, we will leave the margin of 2.5 centimeters and we will draw a box. Let me just show you how you're supposed to do that. Yes, so this is a canvas sheet. Okay, this is the canvas sheet which I'm using. If you're using a canvas board, then this is your extreme side. Okay, this is your extreme side of the board. But if in case you're using a canvas sheet, then you might have left some margin for the framing part. You must take the measurement from the extreme line of your 24 by 18 inches box, right? So if it is a canvas board, this is your side. So place your scale in a way that you mark 2.5 centimeters inside. Okay, mark a dot at 2.5 centimeters and you need to draw a box, right? So the margin of your border is going to be 2.5 centimeters, right? Mark at least twice, thrice, so that you get a straight vertical and horizontal line. Place your scale like this way on these marked points and draw a line. So now this last box is your border. This is your border. Okay. Let me complete one for you so that you can understand. Maintain the line. It should be parallel to the side of your canvas. If you have a long scale, it will help like this. Now this is your border and the width is 2.5 centimeters. If in case you wish to reduce the width of the border, that is totally fine. You can go for 2 centimeters also. 2 centimeters can be taken as the width of the border. In case of adding more elements in the background, you may reduce the width of the border. That's totally fine. Now in the bottom section, I have a little more space than you. So see, I have left a little extra margin, nearly 1 centimeter extra after the 6.6 centimeter box. So I have a little more margin, but that's totally fine. Whatever margin you have, it's totally fine. 18 by 24. So आप वहां से measurement लीजिए. Just take 2.5 from the last line that you have, from the last line. Take 2.5 upwards, mark at least 2 to 3 points. 2 to 3 points can be marked. Place your scale horizontally like this and connect these dots to form the border. So this is the border for the lower section. So if I show you, you will see the whole border here. Yeah, so this is my extreme upper line, this is my extreme right side line. Okay, and this is my border. 2.5 centimeter we are supposed to leave for the borders. Once the box is completed, once the border is drawn, you're supposed to do a wavy line which will help you place the elements inside, right? I'll show you three different variations in the borders. So there are three different variations. Your one variation is going to have the dots. So this is the first variation wherein you're supposed to add the dots. Okay, so you do not have to do anything right now, just add a wavy line. In the borders of this 2.5 centimeter box, you need to add a wavy line. I'll teach you how. Even in the next variation, you are supposed to add the wavy line, but this time the elements are going to be drawn. So here the elements are flower buds. So we will be drawing the flower buds, but you can still see the wavy line. This is your wavy line. Okay. So in all the three variations, you need the wavy line. And this is the third one. Here we have added more of the flower buds, full flowers, and even the seed pods along with the leaves. Okay. So here again there is a wavy line, and in between those gaps we will be fitting in, these elements, and we'll try to balance it out. Right. Here we have taken this complex border because we haven't added a lot of elements in the background. So in order to balance that out, we have taken a little more complex border. So I'll show you one, one by one, I'll show you each and every border, how you're supposed to complete. And if you're planning to take the dot one, then it will look somewhat like this, borders with the dots, right? For that, you only need the wavy line, and the dots can be added once we start, learning the dotting using the tools, right? So yeah, let us start. So first of all, in my previous sessions, I used to give the measurement for these wavy lines, but I observed that if you follow the measurements, no, it might look very mechanical. So I would suggest to go for a random border by drawing a random wavy line. So let me show you how. I'll start from the corner so it becomes easy for you to understand. Hmm. I'm starting from here. Okay. So I start from extreme corner. I usually start from the extreme corner. I go close to this. Okay. And then I usually make a wavy line like this. You can go for small strokes. No need to look for these horizontal lines at all. Randomly, you can go for a wavy line. This extreme curve of the wave should not be touching the borders. आपको यहाँ पे touch कराने की जरूरत नहीं है. Okay. It can be quite free flowing, and there can be a little distance like this. Okay. So no matter which border you're selecting, it can be with the dots or with the flower buds or with multiple elements like the flowers, full flowers, and the leaves. You must be adding the waves. These waves are required. You might struggle when the wave is ending. Okay. The wave is ending over here. So you may, once you reach, close to the corner, you may start the reverse process and start the wave from here. Okay. Just try to connect the wave in a way that it forms a continuous wave, right? If the connection is not very effective, if you feel that you need to erase maybe a little bit and then you can make a smooth connection, that is also fine. Like this. Okay. Later, once you place the elements inside or once you place the dots around it, this wave won't be visible that much. Okay. ये जो wave आपकी जो अभी इतनी ज्यादा effective दिख रही है, इतना ज्यादा highlighted है, वो बाद में नहीं दिखेगी once you start adding the dots and the other elements. Okay. So don't worry if the curves are compromised a little. That's totally fine. Now I'm going to show you the upper side of it. Again, the same method should be followed. Just maintain this width of the wave like this. No need to force yourself to get exact same curve. आप दो तीन बार एक बार रफ प्रैक्टिस करेंगे, you will come to know the flow of the wave. When you reach close to the corner, you have to remember that it's going to be the reverse process. So start from here and try to maintain. Now this is not meeting very well, okay, because the wave is here, so it's not meeting very well. So what I will do, I'll try to connect these two and form one common wave, right? So I'll just erase this portion. I'll push this a little bit towards the corner and I'll try to merge it like this. Okay. So this much you will have to do on your own because as this is a freehand work, you might struggle connecting the waves because we want the corner to be seen very similar to this. The wave should end at this point, right? So this way you're supposed to add the waves in the borders. If you're planning to go for a different border, that is totally fine. I'll send some options for the borders. You may select that and you can go for a freehand technique and you may draw the borders on your own, right? It won't be very difficult job for you. three options which I showed you. I'll show you one by one. If you have started and if you are planning to add the dots, then you are not required to add any details in the borders. Just the wave would be more than enough. But if you're planning to add this kind of a complex border, okay, wherein there are a lot of elements, right? So you have to fit in the elements somewhere in this gap. This wave, when it is forming, there is a gap, right? So you're supposed to place the elements there. So observe the element. For example, it's a flower bud. You can place a flower bud, then connect the flower bud with the wave. Okay. If you're planning to do a bud with, two petals, or I would say two buds, then somewhat like this, and then connect them with the main wave. So there are going to be multiple options. You can also utilize this blank space, and you can try and add the spiral like this. Remember that coloring these elements will be a little more difficult job than adding the dots. So please remember that and then plan accordingly. Now, if you wish to add the full flower, then maybe you can go for this direction. You can add the main bud like this. This will also help you practice the background elements. In the next two class, we will learn the background elements. So if you do a random practice here, it will help you. Try not to maintain, I would say, the number of flower buds. It can be random and, a balanced composition. Somewhat like this, and then connect it. The blank space can be utilized by adding the spiral, or maybe some straight strokes like this. So this way you can complete the borders. There are two variations, as I mentioned. One is having only the flower buds. So in that case, you do not have to think at all, but go for these shapes. Max to max, you can make two or one bud. So one droplet shape and having maybe two petals, somewhat like that. And if you are planning to go for a random placement of multiple elements, so there is a leaf, lotus leaf, then there is flower bud, again there is a seed pod, so you can balance it out. So over here, maybe for example, you have taken one full flower, so do not take the full flower immediately to the next wave. You go for, maybe you can leave 2 3 curves and then go for a full flower. Instead of maybe 4 to 5 petals, you can also go for 3 petals this time, right? So there is a change. So when a viewer is observing your work, they will think that, okay, it's not a repeating border. Okay, there is a change. It will look good. If you're planning to add the leaf, then it will be more like this curve, like this. Sometimes you might have to adjust this wave, this main wave also. You can erase this main wave because the element is quite big. You can erase the main wave. First, place the element. And then you can place the wave and then connect the element like this. So you have to take the appropriate call according to the requirement of your painting, according to the requirement of the placement, and take the right call. Do not force yourself, if you have placed the wave, do not force yourself to set everything around it. You may shift the wave also like this. Later, if there is a blank space, you may add a spiral. Do not be over enthusiastic and go for tiny shapes, because coloring these shapes will be a difficult job, right? Somewhat like this. So there are three variations. I'll show you all of them together so that you can understand. And one is with the dots, so there is no element should be added. Let me go back. Yeah, observe this carefully. So there are three variations. One is only with the dots, so you only supposed to add the wave. If you're planning to add only the buds, then add the wave and place the buds in the blank spaces. And the third one is add the wave, and add some random shapes having the flower, full flower, flower buds, leaves, and seed pods. Okay, so the choice is yours. You may select any one according to your wish and then place the ball. So the last part of this session will be, we will be covering the vaga of Bhagwan, which is the symmetrical part of the subject. So for that, I'm going to give you some markings. As we all know that this is a symmetrical part, so we will be marking on both the sides. So first of all, you have to mark this point. This is nothing but the second intersecting point from the right and third intersecting point from the bottom. As you can see that these are my extreme side of the canvas. You can see the borders are there. So second intersecting point from the right and third intersecting point from the bottom. Okay, so you have to mark on both the sides. Again, I'll just quickly show you. First and second intersecting point from the left and third from the bottom, right? These are the two extreme dots which we will be utilizing for placing the vaga. So now from these 2 points, we're going to connect it to form a saucer curve. When you look at the saucer from a side angle, it will look somewhat like this, right? Or a concave curve, right? So for that, we are going to mark 2 points on the next 2 vertical lines from this horizontal line just above the feet of Bhagwan, right? Both the feet and the pedestal, there is one horizontal line. And if I give you the count, it is second line from the bottom, okay? From this intersecting point, you need to mark, this is the third intersecting point from the left and, sorry, from the right and second from the bottom. Okay, this was your first point. Now this point we are supposed to take as a reference and then we are going to mark upwards, right? I'm going to give you the measurement again. First of all, mark this point. So this is the third intersecting point from the right and second from the bottom, right? In the same manner, you will have to mark on the other side. First, second and third intersecting point from the left and second from the bottom, right? This is your point. From that point, you need to mark upwards. Okay, from that point, you need to mark 3.5 centimeters upwards. We're marking from this point 3.5 centimeters upwards. We're marking a dot which will come nearly in the center of this box. 3.5 multiplied by 2 is going to be 7 centimeter, but this is 6.6, right? So somewhere in the middle. In the same manner, we will be repeating it on the other side. 3.5 centimeters from this point upwards, mark a dot. So you got two points on both the sides, right? Now the next point will come exactly on the symmetrical line. So let us mark 1 centimeter from this horizontal line, the second horizontal line from the bottom. From that point, you need to mark 1 centimeter. If you're getting confused, you have drawn one smaller circle here as a pearl, right? So that smaller circle, the extreme upper portion, upper line of that circle will be your point. 1 centimeter from this horizontal line, that is your second horizontal line from the bottom. So now you're supposed to connect these dots to form the curve. Okay, you can avoid drawing the curve on the mala. Only this part where you're able to see the curve, there you are supposed to draw. So follow my lead. We will slowly start with small strokes, as we know that drawing on canvas is a bit difficult job. So go slow. Try to connect these dots. Over here where you're getting this overlap section, you can go very light and then connect it like this. Again, this is just a reference curve. We're going to modify it. Do the same thing on the other side. Try to connect these dots. 3 dots, 1, 2 and 3rd on the symmetrical line. On the left side, 1, 2 and 3rd on the symmetrical line, right? Once these dots are marked, we're supposed to connect 2 slant lines. So follow my lead. First of all, let me modify this curve. Yeah. So now the next 2 slant lines are going to be from these 2 points. We're supposed to connect these 2 points. This is the first one. This is the next one. Let me give you this exact placement of this dot. This is nothing but the third intersecting point from the right. This is the third intersecting point from the right and fourth intersecting point from the bottom. Third from the right and fourth from the bottom. In the same manner, left side, third from the left, fourth from the bottom. Okay. mark this point. If you're getting confused in placing this dot, just take the exact slant dot, towards the center. From this point, exact slant dot towards the center. You need to take a 30 centimeter scale, place your scale at this point and connect it with the next point which you have just marked. Okay, connect it with a very light line like this. Do the same thing on the other side. Connect these two dots to form a slant line. Okay, so this is basically a symmetrical shape which we are adding on both the sides. Now we're going to mark certain sections inside this shape. Okay, so there are going to be multiple slant lines which we are going to place, but before that we need to mark the pointers on the curve. So from the extreme dot, we're supposed to mark towards the center. You need to take 2.5 centimeter and mark a dot. 2.5 centimeter and mark a dot. Repeat the same thing again. The distance will be 2.5 centimeter and mark a dot. Repeat the same thing, 2.5 centimeter and mark a dot. You will be able to mark 3 different dots. Okay, 3 dots you will be able to mark. The 4th dot will be overlapping the mala, so that won't be marked. Let us repeat the same thing on the other side. 2.5 centimeter is your point. 2.5 centimeter. 3 dots you will be able to mark. The 4th dot will be overlapping the mala. Once these 3 dots are marked, again switch to a longer scale, right? You need to place your scale at this point, the marked point, and the next will be here, just the nose line, the center of the nose, right? Exactly the center of the nose. You need to place your scale and draw a line in a way that you fill in this blank space. Okay, it will be more of a section of that shape. Now again shift to the next point, place your scale here. This point remains the same, but here you're going to shift the point. Okay, so here this is the nose line and exactly on the symmetrical line, but here the point is shifting. Draw very light initially. Again this point remains the same, here it will change. You may shift it a little in order to get a little bigger space here, right? Follow the same thing on the other side. This point remains the same. Here it's going to be nose line and the symmetrical line. Draw a line. Again shift to the next point. Here the nose line. Draw a line. Again shift to the next point. Here this is going to be the nose line. Here you need to shift to the next point. I'm shifting it towards the left because I need a little bigger space here. Okay. Once these sections are marked, you're supposed to draw some saucer curves which are going to be somewhere in between these sections. So observe how when you look at the saucer from a side angle, it will look somewhat like this. So basic curve like this. So just make it a little curvy. The last one will be overlapping the mala, so there you can overlap. Okay, repeat the same thing on the other side to curve it down like this. Once the curves are drawn, we are supposed to add the sections in this slant line. So observe how. Let me go a little more close. Okay, so now this time you're supposed to place your scale this way slant. The 0 will be exactly at this point and you need to mark on the slant line, right? So the first marking will be at 1 centimeter. The second dot will be at 4 centimeter. The third dot will be at 4.5 centimeters. The fourth dot will be at 6.5 centimeters. And then the last will be at 7 centimeters. I'm repeating myself. The first dot will be at 1 centimeter, then 4 centimeter, 4.5, 6.5 and 7. We are not moving the scale at all. The scale will remain there. We are marking from this point. So when I'm talking about 4, this is from this point. Okay. So you just need to place your scale once and mark all the points all together. Right. Shift to the next line, next slant line and follow the same measurements. Mark at 1 centimeter, 4 centimeter, 4.5, 6.5 and 7. Shift to the next line. Markings are 1 centimeter, 4 centimeter, 4.5. This time you won't be able to mark 6.5 and 7 because it's overlapping the mala. Okay, so whatever measurements you're able to mark, please mark those. The rest you may leave. So again, here 1 centimeter you will be able to mark, the rest will go at the back of the mala. Now let me show you how you're supposed to connect these dots. Again, these two dots are supposed to be connected in a way that you form this saucer curve. Here at the end you may curve it a little if you wish. Again, the same curve you need to repeat. Again, the same curve. The last curve will be overlapped. Repeat the same thing for here. Curve it down. Please make these curves very effectively. Over here you may overlap the slant line a little bit. Like this. In the same manner. You may go here. Okay, please remember that you're not going to take the reference of this slant line for the mala, but you're taking the reference from these buds, right? These flower buds. So if you have this slant line, you may erase the slant line if you want. Not the slant line, but this curve, this exact curve in which you are placing the buds. You're not supposed to take the reference from that curve. Instead, take it from the buds. Each and every individual bud you need to take the reference, right? I'm going to quickly show you on the other side so that we complete the task. Place your scale in a slant manner like this. Mark the points. First will be at 1 centimeter, second will be at 4, 4.5, 6.5 and 7. Next line, the markings are same, 1 centimeter, 4, 4.5, 6.5 and 7. Shift to the next line. Mark at 1 centimeter, 4 and 4.5. Okay, shift to the next line. You will be able to mark only 1 centimeter here. Now draw the saucer curves. It is going to be the parallel curve which you have drawn in the bottom section. Like this. You may curve it down here. It may go a little out from the slant line. Like this. Draw very light initially because we might need to erase some of the lines because we tend to make mistake in the first go. Like this. Take the reference of these flower buds, not the slant line. I would say a curve, not a slant line. This curve you're supposed to eliminate. This is just for your reference. You're supposed to take the reference from these flower buds. So draw the curve in a way that it touches the flower buds, not this curve. So that is it about this homework. You're supposed to complete all of these things by next Saturday. So let me tell you what all things are given as a homework. You need to complete the crown and add the details inside the crown. These spirals are added, these peacock feathers are added, just the shapes are added, right? You need to complete the borders. So there are the 3 varieties of border which I showed you that you need to complete. Select any one and complete it by the next Saturday. And the last part is to complete the vaga of Bhagwan, and this remains the same. There are not huge differences, or I won't suggest a huge change in this. Just go for the same placement. Yeah, so I'll see you Saturday. Please complete your homework. Bye bye, take care.